Good evening or good afternoon, whatever time you're watching the show. Welcome to Blue Sunday, brought to you on the Jumper Punch channel. I'm your host, Joseph Lutzer, but if you watch the Jumper Punch, I'm probably better known as Bangkok Joe.
Bangkok Joe.
I'm not coming to you from Bangkok tonight. I'm coming to you from Phuket. So we start a tour today, so we may finish a little bit early, but that's okay.
That's the only other place I know in Thailand, Joe. It's either Bangkok or Phuket. I don't know any others.
You need to come on a tour, Vince. And joining me back in Melbourne, Australia, is the former president of the Carltonian Coterie Group, life member, no doubt, and he is Mr. Vince Lochisano. How are you tonight, Vince?
Yes, I'm good, thanks, Joe. And it's great to have you back, mate. Welcome back to the show. It's been a very rough month or so for you, and we've been inundated with messages of support and condolences for you, mate. As you know, we send a lot of love out to you in the recent weeks, and you've been through a rough trot, but you're back with us, and it's great to see you back. And hopefully, being on the show again gives you something else to think about.
Yeah, thanks, Vince. For those of you who don't know, my partner or my fiance passed away about 9 days ago from lung cancer. Well, in the end, they just called it lung cancer or breast cancer, but it was diagnosed like 2 weeks earlier, and 2 weeks later she had passed away. So I hope she's watching down on us. But she didn't do the right thing yesterday and help the Blues. So I'm not happy with it.
Well, I don't think we'll hold her responsible, Joe.
No, Sarah, I'm going to chastise her and go, you were supposed to look after them. You got them through last week. What are you doing? Anyway. Let's get some admin out the way. This show is for you guys, me, Vince, and our guest at the back, Peter Brown. I mean, we can always just ring each other if we really want to talk. So please feel free to like, share, and subscribe on Facebook. You'll see us at Blue Sunday and on the Jumper Punch with YouTube. So, this show is for you. We're going to let you have your comments, statements. Please feel free. I'll try and get as many of them up, and I'll try and get our special comments guy, our Dermot Brereton, Peter Brown. I prefer Peter than Dermot. And Peter will try in his best honesty to answer the question. Also, as you all probably know, this show is brought to you by my touring company, Retired Working for You Tours. As I said, today I'm on a tour of the southern Thailand. You'll see it over there where you can see James Bond Island and the boat. I will be there tomorrow, so maybe I'll take a few pictures and put them up next week. If you are thinking of coming to Thailand, and even if you just need some advice or if you need a hotel or anything, please give me a call. Whoops, sorry, wrong one. Sorry about that, Vince. Anyway,
sounds good. So, I was just going to say, Joe, we should also remind everyone to watch the Jumper Punch on a Tuesday night, because there's a little 5-minute segment that they normally dedicate to you and to the touring company and to Thailand travel, if you like. So make sure you watch that at the end of every Jumper Punch episode.
Yeah, right.
Around about the last 10 or 15 minutes, you'll see a good little segment there with Bangkok Joe.
Maybe I'm a bit biased, but it is a great place to visit. Anyway, normally about this time I put up a funny photo or a funny meme. I couldn't resist it. I'm sorry, Tanya. The archaeologists have unearthed the stadium where Essendon won its last final. So for all you Essendon supporters out there, that's what the G looked like in before Christ when you guys won your last final. You can visit it. It's not the Acropolis. I think that's Circus Maximus in Italy. Anyway, Vince.
I'm told that by the time the finals start next year, it'll be effectively 20 years, which if you multiply that by 365 days a year, roughly, it'll be 7,300 days by the time the finals start next year before Essendon will even have a chance to win another one.
Well, let's hope there's another 7,000 days before they make it. Sorry, Tanya, don't hit me. Hit Vince instead.
Don't worry, she loves you.
So we're here to talk about football. So what I think I'll do is I will introduce our special comments gentleman. Everyone, he doesn't really need an invitation or an introduction. Everyone knows who he is, Mr. Peter Brown. How are you, Peter?
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Vince. And along with Vince, my condolences to you and your family, etc., etc.
Thanks.
And good to see you back. Like Vince said before, our viewers were really concerned about you. So obviously they just wanted to pass along their best to you, and also myself and my wife pass our best along to you as well.
Well, I hope to be in Australia probably in early December. I'll probably be coming back for 4 weeks. So it'll be a great time that we can all catch up, have a bite to eat and a drink, and Vince, finally meet each other after all these years.
Yeah, in person, yeah. Well, it's a bit of a shame because Tanya and I are planning a month's holiday in Thailand.
You can stay in my apartment. That's cool. Save some money. All right. Friday night, we had a fantastic game, Collingwood and GWS. I thought the better team lost. I don't know about you two guys, but I thought Collingwood were very, very, very lucky. So, Vince, let's go.
I tend to agree with you 100% on that. It was a very exciting game nonetheless, but I think GWS were very stiff with a few umpiring decisions, like when Toby Green just about had his head ripped off and still didn't get a free kick for that, and a couple of others as well. But I also saw some examples on a show, I think it might have been the Sunday Footy show I watched this morning, where they also made life hard for themselves a little bit too, and made some choices and made some decisions that they'd probably look back on and regret a little bit. But anyway, it is what it is, and it panned out the way it did. Collingwood, who lost by a point in last year's preliminary final to Sydney, if you recall, in Sydney, turned the tables this year and won by a point against Greater Western Sydney. So 8 goals, 10-58 to 8-9-57. It was an enthralling game of football, low scoring, but GWS were so brave and worthy finalists. And if they had have gotten over the line, they would have been certainly worthy grand finalists as well. Adam Kingsley's done an amazing job with that team, and you could see what it meant to them. I mean, I've never seen Toby Green show so much emotion after a game of football. In the rooms, he was seen absolutely, bawling his eyes out with his wife. But anyway, nevertheless, that's what football means to a lot of these footballers. They may never get the opportunity again.
Peter, you might be able to answer this. I've heard people say it's harder to get into the grand final than to win them. Is that true?
Probably.
I think all of the build-up and the emotion that goes along with actually being able to make it to the grand final is the thing that's probably more exhausting than actually being there on the day. And the and no doubt with and like you, Joe, I shared the opinion that and along with Vince that I thought that GWS were coming home with a wet sail, and they had real vision about them, as did Footscray the Doggies back in 16 when they sort of came from nowhere, did it the hard way, but were able to take the chocolates at the end of the year. And look, to be perfectly honest with you, I think the one thing that was mentioned today to me was that the game mightn't have been a very high-scoring game, but I think the pressure and the tackling and the actual physicality of the game, I think there's going to be some sore boys out of that game, I would suspect, leading into this next week coming through. So, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that some of the boys from Brisbane aren't sore either, but it just looked to me like the physicality of the contest and the pressure of the contest. It could possibly be where unless they really recover well, they could be exhausted by the end of next week.
It'll be interesting to see who looks fresher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the game that we're all interested in.
By the way, before sorry, Joe, just before we
Yeah.
go on to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brandy, you were going to say something else there?
I was just going to say very quickly, bear in mind also, I don't know whether you've heard, Joe, or not, but over here next Saturday, the temperature is going to be 28 degrees. So that'll be a telling factor, I would imagine, to see who's acclimatised to it and who's not. Because on any given day, as you know, the temperature and humidity and stuff like that can certainly take it out of players' legs and stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it.
Brisbane's favour. Anyway. Okay, Vince, the game
all I was going to say there, by the way, on that Collingwood GWS game, I should say, is that the only multiple goal kickers for the game were Toby Green with 2 for the GWS and Daniel McStay kicked 2 for Collingwood, the only multiple goal kicker, and he has done a knee injury and will not play in the grand final.
Fantastic
So
news.
Another avenue to goal that closes up for them. It'll be interesting to see who they replace him with. But I think that's going to be a big concern for Collingwood, who's going to kick their goals next weekend. Anyway, that's their problem.
Okay, and at the Gabba yesterday afternoon, Vince?
Yesterday afternoon, indeed. Final scores, Brisbane Lions 11-13-79, defeated Carlton 9-9-63. I think you'd probably have to say when you're playing at the Gabba, you need to kick a lot more than 9 goals to win a game of football.
Yeah.
However, we got off to a magnificent start kicking the first 5 goals of the game before Brisbane just got a settling goal before quarter time to go in behind by 23 points at quarter time. They kicked 1 goal, 2-8 to Carlton's 5-1-31. But then, of course, in the second quarter, when you would have hoped that Carlton would maintain the rage, Brisbane really settled down and started to get a bit more flow into their game, and they certainly hit some targets in that forward 50. And they ended up kicking 5 goals, 4 for the quarter to Carlton's 1 goal, 2. And ended up going in at halftime with a 3-point lead, 6-6-42 to 6-3-39. In the third quarter, I remember seeing Rocco at halftime. I was over there at the live site at Prince's Park or Icon Park, and I happened to catch him at halftime. And I said, "Oh, I don't know about this game. It's starting to slip away from us." He said, "Don't worry, we've got the premiership quarter coming up in the third quarter." I said, "All right, fair enough." But unfortunately, we didn't even score a goal. And I think that probably told the big story. Brisbane kicking 3 goals, 3 to Carlton's 4 points for the quarter to go into 3-quarter time, 9-9-63 to Carlton 6-7-43. Yes,
I think the turning point was that Cripps 50 metres. He thought he got the free kick and he's banged it down, right? And Oscar McInerney got the goal. And if you look at that piece of play, Cripps and Pitnet are being held. So he was well within his right. But, of course, he didn't play the whistle.
Well, it's just one of those,
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him because I thought it was our free kick too. And then when the umpire said, "Oh, I'm 50 metres," I thought, "Why are we getting 50 metres?" And then he's running the other way. What the hell? But we had our chances in that third quarter. We
did, and even Chera right before 3-quarter time, had a shot from a very short distance on a slight angle, and he missed it to the right of the goalpost, and that's when we were 21 points down, and we really, really needed that goal to get back to 15 points. But in the end, he missed it, and we went into 3-quarter time with a 20-point deficit. That was always going to be hard to get back in the last quarter. In the end, Brisbane kicked 2 goals, 4 in that last quarter to Carlton's 3 goals, 2. We got a consolation goal by Jack Martin right at the end there to outscore them for the quarter. But other than that, it was a fairly even quarter. And they held us off and ended up winning by 16 points. So let's dissect the game, gentlemen. I'll just quickly, before we do that, just go through the goal scorers. For Carlton, Mackay had 2, Martin 2, and Cripps 2. They were the main goal kickers. For Brisbane, it was Danaher with 2, Linton McCarthy with 2, and Oscar McInerney, the ruckman, also scored 2 goals. The rest were all singles. So, yeah. And notice if you notice there, the name Charlie Curnow didn't come up in the goal scorers because he only got the one goal again for the third week in a row.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go through some stats.
Yep.
Disposals.
Okay. Well, as you can see, that the disposals, generally speaking, are pretty much even in terms of overall disposals. But you'll see there that Brisbane actually got a lot more kicks and we got a lot more hand passes. I think that's probably indicative of how much they used the ball by foot to get meterage rather than us. We were hand passing backwards, sideways a lot throughout the whole game. Our disposal efficiency was better at 75 to 67, but I think they were a bit more effective overall. The inside 50s told a little bit of a story, 64 to 52. Moving to the next page, Joe, I think we've got hit-outs there. Oscar McInerney did an unbelievable job in the ruck, I thought, against our two ruckmen, 41 there to 33 overall. I think the clearances told a bit of a story too, Brownie, there. You'll see the overall clearances 44 to 30, centre bounce clearances 12 to 9, and also the stoppage clearances. Their midfield, I think after quarter time, really ripped through ours. They owned the corridor, and I think most of our midfielders were down for the final three quarters of the game, 32 to 21 in stoppage clearances. Tackles, well, we out-tackled them a little bit there, but I guess that's probably because they had the ball a lot more in the end.
Marks first. Go to the marks.
Oh, sorry, marks. I beg your pardon. Sorry about that. That's okay. Brisbane outmarked us 104 to 80. Inside 50, they also outmarked us 11 to 8. We certainly got a bit more in the contested marks, but a lot of those contested marks weren't in inside 50 and they weren't in goal-scoring situations. So, that's one area that we won in, but it didn't really reflect on the scoreboard, did it?
No.
So next, Joe, after that is what I thought it was going to be. Okay. Tackles. Yeah, that's where, again, we out-tackled them a little bit, but we didn't get to that magic 60 or better mark in terms of tackles. But probably because they had the ball a lot more than us in the last three quarters. We had a few more bounces than they did, so we're a bit more daring in that respect. 1%ers, have a look at that. Brisbane 70 to 49. That really did tell a big story as well. They did a lot of the little things that you don't even get a stat for. You know, that little hand in. The amount of times I saw Carlton possessions blocked or intercepted by a hand or an arm or a body in some way, shape, or form that intercepted that possession, and it turned the ball over quite a number of times.
I thought that was really highlighted with that goal that McGregor had kicked off half back. I think it was who was it that was going out, and they didn't put their body on the line, didn't put their body over the ball. They just sort of put it.
It was Cottrell. I think you'll find it was Cottrell and Connor McKenna. It is. I think it is.
McKenna, sorry.
Yeah, Connor McKenna, the Irishman. Yeah. He intercepted that ball that Cottrell sort of overran, and he ended up kicking it around his body for a beautiful goal. But
yeah. And that
was the last slide, Vince.
Oh, sorry. We'll just go through the last slide, and then we'll talk about all the stats if you like, Brownie. The centre clearances there I talked about, and the stoppage clearances. So contested possessions, they were all pretty even, contested and uncontested possessions. Turnovers were also very, very similar. So I think that's about it, Joe.
Yeah.
So let's just discuss them in general, Brownie, in the areas that you think there was a clear difference between the sides.
Well, firstly, let me just say from the outset that McInerney's not usually known as a goal kicker. And for him to actually be in amongst their goal kicking, that means that what they were doing is that Brisbane were pushing McInerney back into the forward line, and either we were too slow to react or we weren't quick enough to counteract that move. There's a couple of things that stood out to me. one of the things that was really, really interesting was that in the first quarter, when we were actually dominating the actual game at that stage, it looked like that we could walk on water. And we looked quick. We looked like that we were in control. We were taking all of our opportunities which were presented to us, and we were able to use them. In fact, I think that the first probably maybe 15 or 20 minutes of the game, I think the ball didn't come out of our forward line. I think it was actually trapped within our forward 50, and we were continually putting the ball inside, but obviously didn't convert. I mean, obviously with weight of numbers, we were able to score. One of the other highlights to me was that our forward line was absolutely dysfunctional, and to the point where it was almost like it was embarrassing. And I think that Brisbane actually started the game and they looked really nervous. They didn't look like they were wanting to take any risks or anything like that. They didn't want to take the game on initially. And then what happened was that obviously at quarter time, they you said it yourself, Vince, that you just felt like the momentum shift was starting towards the end of the first quarter. And then they've come out and kicked 2 in quick succession and then pulled it back. And then that started to produce some scoreboard pressure on Carlton. Then they had to defend rather than keep on attacking. And I'm not sure, and you might be able to shed some light on this, but, you know, I expected Charlie Curnow to come out in this game and probably stamp his authority on the game. And I just didn't see that. And in the last 3 finals games that he's played, he's only returned the figures of 3 goals, 1 per game. It's extraordinary to think that you have a Coleman medalist that has kicked 80 goals throughout the year. And I know that finals football, it goes up a notch or 2 in intensity, pressure, etc., etc. I think that whatever has happened has now he almost looked like he was. And I won't say disinterested because I think that would be doing the guy a disjustice. But I think that, and you know, a couple of 3 weeks ago when he actually gave us the spark, which was the catalyst against Gold Coast, he looked like he could be running into some really good form going into the final series. But the reality is that the return for the ability of the guy was virtually non-existent. And I would have been quicker, I think, to make some moves with Charlie, particularly against Brisbane. They could have tried him behind the ball, or they could have brought him up into the midfield or something like that to get him into the game so that he would have an influence on the game and then perhaps be able to have some sort of input into what was going on.
Yeah.
As it was now, that just played straight into Andrew's hands. And he was able to not only intercept but also control the forward. And the disappointing part about that was that in our first quarter, our small forwards were working hard. You made the point earlier, Vince, that you said that our players look slow, and whilst we are in front and running, everyone's up and about. Right, so they're running on top of the ground. As soon as they start falling behind and having to chase and do all the discipline things, I think that was the telling point. The other thing that crossed my mind, I don't know whether you guys had seen this or not, but the McKenna and also what's the other guy off half back, Vince?
Killian Coleman.
Coleman.
Yeah.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was the best man on the ground for mine.
Well, even if
absolutely scintillating game of halfback.
Well, even if you're getting beaten yourself, you can still contribute by being a defensive forward.
Yes.
And they were able to springboard too easily out of their back line to be able to counter-attack or to actually score by them having possession. Now, our forwards, on a couple of occasions, I noticed they were 20 or 30 metres behind these guys. And that is just unacceptable. Motlop a couple of times was like there was a player running down the ground, might have even been Coleman. He was running down the ground creating opportunities, and he was only just in not even a half a jog behind. He wasn't putting any chasing pressure on. Now, we all know that Cripps isn't capable of being a defensive player anyway, but I would have suspected that some of our smaller forward jobs would have been a lot more disciplined than what they were. I can't complain about our back line. I thought Wiedering did a ripper job of being able to intercept. Although he was under pressure at on numerous occasions, particularly more so with the ball that comes in and gets behind them, and then obviously allows someone like Charlie to get into the game and that, because he was non-existent. Charlie Cameron in the first half, he didn't have an influence on the game. Some of our players that were so reliable for such a long time during the season they were below par, and the efficiency disposal, the ability to be able to create, and the thought to be able to lock it in when we need to lock it in, and make a hard contest of it. They certainly it didn't happen.
Peter, what do you think about our rucks? So we went in with Pitanayan or Pitanet, whatever you want to call him, and TDK. Was that a good idea?
It was always going to be a fairly big ask of Pitanayan to be able to go up against McInerney in the centre bounces. And up until this week, it has worked. We were able to go up against Gawn. We were able to go up against Hickey and be able to use that to our advantage. I thought our rucks lowered their colours against Big O. I thought McInerney, I thought he did an excellent job. He looked a bit, I don't know whether you guys picked up or not, he looked a little bit proppy there at one stage, and I thought that maybe he might have got a knock or something like that. But like I said before, he was instrumental in being able to control, and he's a very good tap ruckman. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. And unless our boys could get a proper body on him, even though they did try, he just seems like a big praying mantis, this bloke. He's got arms and legs going all over the place, and he just seems to have his timing down pat when it comes to actually being able to control the ball through either a throwing contest or a ball up contest. So I thought our rucks lowered their colours against.
Can I give you some stats that'll back up exactly what you just said? McInerney had 14 possessions, including 10 kicks and 4 hand passes. Took 2 marks, laid 3 tackles, got 38 hit-outs, and scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
Versus Pitnet and DeConning. Well, Pitnet had 10 possessions, only the 1 mark, no tackles, 17 hit-outs versus 38. And DeConning had 16 hit-outs. He laid 3 tackles and only had 8 possessions. So, in fact, you know how they give these points per player when they assess their games. McInerney was one of the top 2 or 3 on the ground at 104. Pitnet had 38 and DeConning had 52. Mm-hmm. So, 2 men versus 1, and they still couldn't contribute a combined effort that superseded McInerney's. So, our 2 rucks struggled this week. They did well against Gawn, but I think they met their match this time.
Oh, absolutely. I've been a big fan of Oscar for
the
a
big
long
O.
time. Yeah, he's a great ruckman. And the other thing that our midfield didn't do was that we didn't take advantage of being able to read the hit-outs from McInerney. So we weren't able to capitalise on his work rather than trying to capitalise on our own work. So
Brownie, let's just quickly assess quarter by quarter if we can. The first quarter was, let's be honest, it was a scintillating 20-odd minutes. I think Charlie Curnow kicked his goal, which was the last of those 5 goals in a row, at about the 21-minute mark of the first quarter.
Yep.
Now, we owned the game up until then. They looked fumbly. They looked panicky. They didn't know how to handle the heat. We brought as much heat as I've seen us bring the whole year in that 20-minute period. Did we shoot too many bullets out of our artillery all in the one hit? Do you think that we were that geared up, if you like, by Michael Voss to just hit them with everything in the first quarter that we might have run out of steam a bit early?
Even if you do
Brisbane, as you said, Brisbane seemed to sort of almost hold back a little bit, almost like, hey, let these guys run themselves ragged. We won't, do too much to counter them because we expected this. But after 20 minutes, all of a sudden, we didn't quite have the same pressure I detected anyway. And that's one of the reasons why they ended up scoring a goal before quarter time. And then from that moment on, Brisbane kicked 10 out of the next 11 goals up until early in the last quarter.
I thought that I thought that our interchange and our mixing up of our players, particularly through the midfield, wasn't as relevant as it should have been. I thought they could have mixed it up a bit more in the centre there, even to the point where, if you're off running and off to the races, and if you do run out of steam, then you need to have someone as a backup plan there. Unfortunately, we didn't have what I thought was a backup plan. We didn't have a plan B. We had a plan A,
right?
Just go out and run and gun, and then plan B, if they were going to come back at us, means that you've got to batten down the hatches, then be able to, even if it was to go one-on-one, which I didn't see a lot of,
never.
And shut it down, and then try and go in at half time with at least some sort of scoreboard pressure still against them, and then they have to come out and try and win the ball back off you and win the contest back off you.
Peter, did we go in with too many injured players?
I have
as in who? Cripps, Akers, and Doherty, maybe.
Doherty. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, look, definitely Doherty didn't look right. He certainly, well, firstly, he lowered his colours. That's the first thing. Even though
his opponent was Coleman.
Yeah,
number 18.
And he was supposed to be playing a defensive role on Coleman. And what they were doing was allowing Doherty to go up the ground, and then Coleman was just doing the sweeper work along the through the back line. But it's okay. But when you've got a sweeper that can use the ball as efficiently as what Coleman can do, you need to make sure that you've got your ducks in a row, or be prepared to sacrifice this end so that you can pick it up on this end. And that's what we weren't doing. We were sacrificing, but we weren't then being able to counterattack. So I think that was a blunder. Cripps is definitely at one stage I looked at it, and I think he got clobbered one time when he kicked his second goal, I think. But it was there was a bit of a head-high contact there. But
it was.
Also, if you look at it closely, he also got some midfield attention or midriff attention as well. And I'm not sure which hurt him more, to be honest with you. He looked a bit gun-shy, particularly in big contests.
Yeah, well, again, Dunkley was one of Brisbane's most prolific midfielders, and he was directly up against Cripps. And I think you'll find that he would clearly take the I guess the chocolates in terms of having won that contest overall, even though Cripps did end up playing up forward a little bit and kicking a couple of vital goals at vital times. But overall, in terms of midfield numbers, you'd have to give Dunkley the chocolates there, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, Dunkley definitely did another number on Cripps. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you know, the shining light for us was obviously Walsh. Whilst he was in everything, he was like pepper and salt. He was in everything. But
yes,
the problem was with Walsh was that he got a lot of it, but because of the pressure that he was under, the disposal efficiency dropped away, and it wasn't his fault. It was just the mere fact that you know the other players weren't stepping up. For example, Chera, right now, Chera I thought had a quieter game. He was one of our better ones for many weeks, and you know he looked like he was running into some good form. One of the other things that I think, guys, was that I just don't think we actually showed the Brisbane backmen the respect that they deserved. I
was just going to say, you know what, Brownie? I went into this game thinking that Carlton could win, especially when I found out that Jack Payne was a last-minute withdrawal from the Brisbane side on Thursday night at selection because of that ankle injury. And I thought, you know what? We can really stretch them here with Curnow and Mackay back and with De Koning drifting down into the forward line as well. We can really stretch them for height, but it never eventuated that way. I thought Gardner played an amazing game on Charlie Curnow, and Harris Andrews was probably instrumental in keeping Brisbane only down by 4 goals at quarter time instead of maybe 7 or 8, because he took some sensational intercept marks and intercepted the ball by hand, by punching it. He did give 1 or 2 free kicks away because he was under pressure, but overall, I thought Harris Andrews was magnificent on Saturday night.
Charlie went missing. Charlie went missing.
One of the things that was interesting was that the 2 backmen for Brisbane, Andrews and what was the other one?
Yeah, Gardner. And I thought also Ryan Lester played a very good game, number 35. Yeah, he even kicked the goal.
Yeah, well, Gardner and Andrews, I think they actually switched between Harry and Charlie. They were actually... And I think what happened was that Andrews started on Charlie and then...
No, he started on Harry, actually.
Oh, did he? Sorry.
Yeah.
And it went the other way around. They
swapped around a few times, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So they weren't actually allowing them to settle into what their opponents were doing. So they were actually, second-guessing themselves a little bit, I think. The other interesting thing was that whilst we were running hot in the first quarter, we weren't actually able to, in the second quarter when Brisbane were making a run of us and we were counter-attacking on the occasion we weren't actually lowering our eyes. We were thinking about what we were doing in the first quarter. And we were trying to actually get it in long, and all they were doing was double-teaming Charlie to make sure that he didn't get a run and jump at it.
I was just going to say that it was telling that their midfield was starting to get on top when all of a sudden our forward entries started to become those really high bombs that really gave our forwards very little chance. Gave the Brisbane backs a chance to double back and punch the ball away time and time again. That's when you know that we're under pressure and that our midfield's failing, because those forward entries need to be a lot more direct to targets running forward towards the ball. When we did that, it looked good, but it was very few and far between, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Look, in the first quarter, brilliant. Shots to Harry, kicks into the forward line. Harry marked one. Charlie marked another good mark. As I said, for his only goal, his only contribution really for the game. And I think late in the game, Harry took a mark off a lead as well. But very few and far between those sorts of forward entries where we lowered our eyes. Most of the time it was just bombing it up high and setting it up for the Brisbane backline.
Yeah, and I don't know whether you guys picked up on this or not, but there was some times in the second and third quarter where Carlton second guessed themselves. They were going to actually take the game on, and then all of a sudden pull back, and then decided that they wanted to take the safe option rather than actually be able to try and create. You made an interesting point earlier on, Vince. You said that towards the end of the game, Brisbane were virtually controlling the corridor, and that's true. We as little as we did try to go inside, we didn't actually were able to achieve anything. No. And then Brisbane were able to control the middle of the ground too much, and as a result of that, they were able to control the game.
Tell you what, though, Brownie. Sorry, Joe.
Rich, have a look at the comment from AIR. Should some of the blame be put on selection committee and tactical coaching errors towards the second half of the game when player confidence was down? What do you think?
Okay, that's a good question. Thanks for that question. And anyone else who wants to ask one for us to debate and discuss, we welcome those questions. I thought Brownie made a good point earlier about Charlie. I think Voss at times lacks the willingness to take risks as a coach. I would have thrown him up the ground. I would have thrown him into the middle. Put him in the middle and see what he can do. Just throw things around. Sometimes you've just got to mix the chess pieces around and see if it works. Because what do you got to lose? I mean, if you're down by 4 or 5 goals, you've got to try something that's going to turn things around. And I don't think he was daring enough himself. Probably the whole team wasn't daring enough on the night in the way that we played. But yeah, he probably could have made a few more moves. I guess in hindsight, it's easy to criticise. But, as a coach, I think the question could be asked, what did you do to try and turn things around? You can say, well, I'm waiting for the players to do it. Yeah, but when your plan A is not working, at what stage do you put in a plan B if you've got one? And maybe that's the answer, Brownie. You didn't really have one.
Well, should we have played JSOS?
Sorry?
Should we have played Jackson?
Yeah. I'm just asking. No.
I'll tell you one inclusion that I think did work, and that was the inclusion of Jordan Boyd. A lot of people sort of raised their eyebrows at that selection, but geez, he played a good game and he could walk off with his head held high. I think that young guy.
Absolutely.
I actually gave him a vote. I thought his game was that good, but anyway, look. Maybe the selection you could have a go at leaving out guys like Matthew Owies in they chose him in favour of they chose Motlop in favour of Owies. Yet Owies has kicked 27 goals for the year. Motlop hasn't kicked anything close to that. So maybe that was a bit of a tough call on Matthew Owies. I know he only kicked the 1 goal last week and Motlop kicked 2, but I don't know. Again, easy to criticise in hindsight. Who else did they leave out? I think they left out Cunningham and they left out Kemp. Kemp was another one that raised some eyebrows. He hasn't had the best of final series, I suppose. He lowered his colours a couple of times.
I don't think Sinclair played well. He didn't play well the last 2 weeks.
What it did do, though, guys, was that by taking Kemp out of the back line, what that meant was that then they had to leave Marchbank to match up on
one of their forwards, one of their half forwards.
Not Danaher, but the other big bloke, number 30.
Yes, he was playing on. Was it him or was it McGovern that was playing on Hipwood?
Hipwood, sorry, yes, Hipwood. Yeah, I think it was McGovern that was playing on Hipwood, and McGovern's too loose for Hipwood.
McGovern was on Rayner, I think. Yeah.
Rayner, was he?
Yeah.
Rayner's too quick for him. Rayner's way too quick for McGovern.
I thought McGovern did a good job. I mean, Rayner didn't hit the scoreboard. He only got the 2 kicks for the game and 7 hand passes and was largely ineffectual, whereas McGovern was probably in our best 5 or 6, Brownie.
Yeah, I just think that
he had 24 possessions, McGovern, versus 9, and had 5 marks and also 83% disposal efficiency, and had 10, no short of 10 rebound 50s. I thought McGovern actually played a really good game on Rayner. I've got to disagree with you on that one. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry. I saw it from a different point of view by the fact that he was actually getting himself caught underneath the ball when it was coming in. That was the other thing that sort of I thought to myself, well, hang on, is he relying upon Wiedering to come over the top and be that intercept player, or he just wasn't working hard enough to get back to a contest? So that was the read that I had on that.
Yep.
And
by the way, everyone, if you're wondering where Joe is, he's just had to pop out for a minute, so he won't be that long. Brownie and I will keep the fires burning down here.
Absolutely. The other thing I thought that was I didn't think had an influence was our wingman.
Akers didn't have the same effect this week. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. I mean, Ollie Hollands tried hard, but and I've been saying for a long time that whilst he's tenacious in his tackling and his running ability and stuff like that, he needs to build himself up over the preseason so that he can actually come back a better and stronger player coming into the season proper next year. And the other thing, Kennedy,
he was on as a sub. He came as a sub.
Yeah, I really
they dropped him for the game, but then they brought him on as a sub in the last quarter. I think they took off Fogarty.
Yes, they did. Yeah, Fogarty was subbed out.
He only had the 3 kicks. He only had the 3 kicks and 4 hand passes up until that time, and again largely ineffectual.
Well, the game was over by then, wasn't it? Really, when you think about it.
They could have subbed Motlop off. He only had 6 possessions. Chincotta only had 8. Cottrell only had 8. He kicked the opening goal of the game. Yes, great, but again, didn't do much after that. In fact, he had a snap for goal there in that last quarter that could have made a big difference, but he just didn't nail it, did he? Didn't nail the kick. There was a few examples there where if they had have come off, it would have put us within that sort of, 1.5 to 2.5 goals down mark. And his was one kick that was disappointing there, that one where he had to screw it around his body. It basically went up in the air mostly, rather than carrying any distance. And, of course, Chera's miss in that last minute of the third quarter. Again, little things like that. Harry also had a shot which hit the post in that third quarter. Again, it was a quarter that we didn't score 1 goal, but we had some opportunities that should have been taken, and they can make all the difference when the end margin's only 16 points.
The other thing that was interesting is we, as a side. I don't think we recognise this enough. We've gone through this finals campaign with inconsistencies. I'll call it inconsistencies, right? There hasn't been any one defined. You couldn't pinpoint one defined player that's actually been consistent right through. Although, having said that, I could counteract that by saying that Walsh has had a pretty good finals campaign.
I was just going to say, Walsh's finals series has been impeccable. He's been our best player 3 consecutive finals in a row.
Absolutely. But the problem with that, though, is Walsh is only one player. When you're in a finals campaign, you cannot afford to have any less than 13 winners on the day. If you do have less than 13 winners, you're not going to win the game of football.
Yeah.
And passengers are no longer required when you're going into this and trying to win a cutthroat final like this. I mean, even in that last quarter, Vince, we were 20-odd points down going in.
Yep.
What's the difference between going down by, say, 30 points or whether you go in and you try a couple of things, change some things up, maybe something may work? I mean, there's no next week, right? So that's over. That's finished. Win, lose or draw, it's over.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right.
You go into the final. If you lose, then you've got nothing to lose. All you've done is that you've experimented, you've tried something, you've changed it up, you've taken the momentum away from people that are used to seeing what we do, and you change it around. You have that flexibility at your fingertips to be able to make that decision, to be able to change things up. And I just don't think we took that opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be a fair assessment to say that, look, the majority of our players, with maybe the exception of Walsh, McGovern, Wiedering, Boyd, who was, you're not comparing Boyd's game with any other previous games, are you? But he actually played a good game. I think them mainly were the only ones that were an exception. Most of the others had a down night on their usual output and would be, not feeling too good about how they performed as individuals in a team that was found out on the night overall by a very strong Brisbane outfit. It's not hard to see why they're unbeaten there for the whole of season 2023. They're an awesome outfit, and they'll certainly go close to winning next week, in my opinion. But look, other than that first 20 minutes of the first quarter, I think they then started to control the game, and their midfield took over, and their forwards started to get plenty of opportunities. And, by quarter time, they actually took the lead. And then from that point on, as I said, they had a stretch between the 20-minute mark of the first quarter till around about the halfway through the last quarter, where they had kicked 10 out of 11 goals. And you can't afford to have a passage of time in a final like that where you're being absolutely murdered. But look, I think overall, Carlton supporters would probably be feeling disappointed, but also proud of the team's achievements this year, considering where we were after round 15. We were 15th on the ladder, with basically the lights being turned off.
Nearly second the coach.
The coach's position was under threat, especially when the board came out and said that they were backing him unconditionally. Anyway, we won't go there. But look, I think we've turned our season around and given our supporters something to really get enthusiastic about and cheer about. And look, I sensed that there at Princes Park on Saturday evening. I went to the live site and I saw all the pictures that were at the Gabba. We had as many supporters as what Brisbane had over there. It felt at times like we had almost like a home crowd of our own up there. And look, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for what we've done this year, and I think Carlton supporters would be feeling pretty good about how the team's performed overall, even though it is disappointing and should be disappointing that we got beaten yesterday and fell one game short of a grand final. But there's certainly a bit to work on, and if they do work on those deficiencies, who knows? The plan would no doubt be to go one step further next year.
Well, the comments that were made by Voss after the game was that these blokes are hurting. Okay, let's just see how hurt they are. And this gives them now the opportunity, not only at selection committee level, at coaching committee level, at personnel committee or personnel level. This gives management. This gives them an opportunity to go away, consider what their deficiencies are, and be able to work on them, and then be able to recruit accordingly. And I've said this all along, there's no sentiment in football, so you're only as good as your last game. And if that was your last game, that preliminary final, then you're in a situation where, and you played poorly, then you've either got to do two things. You've got to work twice as hard over the off-season to improve upon that, or you fall by the wayside. That's as brutal as what
there are no guarantees next year, are there? Just because you made one preliminary final doesn't mean you're going to get that far next year if you don't put the work in and if you don't improve on what you do on the ground.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's get to the votes and we'll talk a little bit about what we need in the game. So let's go.
Yep.
Yes, well,
not much variety there, Joe.
No, Look, clearly the best Carlton player on the ground is Sam Walsh again. His finals performances this year have shown me that he is now ready to step up into a leadership role in terms of captaincy within the club. So I hope that they take the opportunity over the off-season to make that adjustment.
Well, he is already one of our 2 vice-captains, along with Jacob Wiedering.
Yeah,
so,
but I think it's time that we need to change at the helm.
So you would actually take it off Cripps for next year, would you?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, right. Interesting.
Yeah, so I would take it off Cripps and give it to Walsh.
Let him concentrate.
That doesn't mean that we won't still have Patrick Cripps with a role within the side.
Yeah.
2 votes to Jacob Wiedering. Wiedering's final series and in fact leading up to the final series, he's got better and better and better. He certainly has answered me as a critic, and I'll take my hat off to him. So I say to Jacob Wiedering, congratulations on your turnaround on your form, particularly more so in the later half of the season. That has been exceptional, and I commend you on that. And my last vote went to a guy that, as you know, I would have thrown him out of the joint some time ago and traded him. The reason why I gave Mackay the vote was that he was at least presenting each time up the ground. He was actually he took marks in the back line a couple of times, and he was actually trying to create something. So I thought, well, at least from a forwards point of view, I've got a midfield, I've got a backman, I've got a forward in there in my votes. Purely and simply because of his work rate and his ability to be able to get up and present. So, Harry Mackay, I give you 1 vote. And if you continue on with that sort of form going into next season, then I won't be as a major critic of you as what I have been. We'll toughen you up over the break, of course, so that you can take some more of the ruck responsibilities in and around the forward line, which I would like to see you do that. So 3 Walsh, 2 Wiedering and 1 Mackay.
Go, Vince.
Right. Well, I also gave Sam Walsh 3 votes for the same reasons, all of the same reasons that you said. 33 disposals. He was clearly our best winner of the ball on the night and beat his opponent. 75% disposal efficiency, 7 score involvements, 8 inside 50s. Played a great game, I thought. And Jacob Wiedering, I also gave 2 votes to. And, he ran at 82% efficiency, which was excellent. And, how I said McGovern had 10 rebound 50s and basically played a very good game. Well, Wiedering actually had 11. So he even outdid McGovern in terms of rebounding the ball back. And at least his disposal efficiency is very high at 82%. So he's often the barometer of our side. If he plays really well, we normally do pretty well. And I thought we didn't lose the game because of his performance. The only time he probably, I wouldn't even say got beaten, but he got led to the ball a couple of times from Danaher in that second quarter. But they were passes that literally were lace-out passes to Danaher. He hardly had to even jump for them. He just had to stick his hands out and they fell into his lap. So, he conceded 2 goals on Danaher, but I still think he was worth 2 votes for the night. And I gave my 3rd vote to Jordan Boyd, who was, a surprise inclusion in the team. He got 17 disposals. He went at 82% as well. He had 3 score involvements, took 5 marks. And I thought he just used the ball very, very well and was a real spark for us on that half-back line. I thought he was very determined and threw himself at every contest. I was very impressed with him. So I decided to give him a vote. I mean, you could have given you 1 vote to probably 8 or 9 different players for different reasons. Mackay, I heard your comments on Mackay, Brownie. I tend to agree with you. I think what I was glad to see last night was that his only choice to kick it around his body was on a shot for goal that makes sense to do that. And he kicked the goal early in the first quarter like that. Other than that, he was basically kicking drop punts, and one of them hit the post, but the others were pretty accurate for most of the night. So I agree with you. He presented time and time again, and if Harry can keep playing like that, he'll be a very valuable asset in the forward line. And the other one I would just wanted to give a bit of a special, I guess I want to say a special mention. I thought Marchbank did quite well on his half-back flank. But again, McGovern played well. Newman played well. Some of those defenders, I think that considering how many inside 50s were coming in and how much their midfield was dominating, I thought our defence held up reasonably well to only concede 11 goals to Brisbane on their home deck that they normally score 100 points on game after game after game after game. So I thought our defence can hold their heads up high pretty much.
Yeah, the back six I thought was all commendable, and you could even throw Sard in amongst there as a.
And Newman, did you see Newman how he copped a hit in the eye there? I think that was from a Patrick Cripps tackle, a bit of friendly fire. But
friendly fire.
Yeah, they all tried hard. I mean, Sard played on Charlie Cameron, kept him pretty quiet for the night. Yeah,
well, he did right up until probably halfway through the third quarter. Sard had taken Cameron virtually his influence out of the game. So, Anyway.
Okay. I go through votes to Walsh. I have 2 to Waring. I thought Doherty, even though beaten, he created a lot of chances and was a good link man. So that's my votes. I'm not going to keep going because I've got to go soon, and I'll tell people why.
That's all right.
But you know what time it is, Vince, don't you?
One of our favourite segments.
Beautiful kick from Brown. That's a magnificent kick. Look at that. He was inside the centre square when he kicked that for a goal.
1979 Premiership player, Peter Brown. Who are you going to give your brownie points to?
Did you actually kick a goal with that kick, or did you kick a point?
It was a goal.
It was a goal. All right. So, Peters.
He enjoyed playing against North Melbourne. I think 2 of his best games were against North Melbourne. One at Waverley and one at Arden Street. I remember he kicked the bag as well.
Correct.
Okay, so here's Peters' thing.
Yeah, look, it was like you, Vince. It was there
you go.
It was an inclusion into the side that I raised my eyebrows for a moment, and then I thought, you know what, this kid might actually turn it on, and he actually did. So I tipped my hat to Jordan. He hadn't been playing for a while up until he got injured got suspended and went out. He was playing really, really good football. He was getting better and better each week. I thought, like your comments in and around the fact that every contest that he threw himself into last night, it looked like it was his last contest for the club. So full points to Jordan. I thought his game was really, really good. Hopefully over the pre-season he gets himself even fitter again. He comes back into the side and holds back that holds down that position and is able to stamp his authority on it.
Yeah, I think he shows a lot of promise. He's probably one of the few players with the number 37 on his back that's actually done that number some justice since Wayne Harms retired.
Yeah,
Carl Norman. Anyway,
Carl Norman, you've got to be kidding me, don't you?
Let's quickly get to the grand final. Let's be quick. I want you to tell me who's going to win and why. Vince?
I'm going for the Brisbane Lions. I actually think that they are ready. They're primed and fresher than Collingwood. Collingwood losing McStay is a big out for them. Some people would even say it's justice, seeing he deserted the Lions at the end of last year to go to Collingwood, and now he's got to watch both of his sides play. So in a nutshell, you said, I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be a very close contest, but I'm choosing Brisbane Lions by 8 points.
Okay. Peter?
Yeah, I'm going against you, Vince. I'm going to go the Magpies. I'm actually going to actually go for the Magpies, only purely and simply because of one thing and one thing only. And that is, firstly, the crowd involvement, but secondly, McRae's been quietly going along and creating an atmosphere and a culture at Collingwood, which has been unprecedented in that club for probably maybe 80 or 90 years. And now he's got his opportunity to put his stamp on this and his authority on this. And I reckon that the Collingwood side will get up by 15 points.
Okay, and I'm going to go for Brisbane Lions because I can't stand Collingwood.
I knew he'd say that.
I have an ABC methodology. Anyone but Collingwood.
Yes, I think a lot of Carlton supporters have got that mentality.
Okay, so
yes, okay.
So Peter,
do you think Brisbane? Can I just ask Peter quickly? Do you think Brisbane will have that MCG issue still, or do you think that's not a problem on grand final day?
I did mention before about the heat and the temperature, the climatisation of it, and I think it'll just be defined on who's got the fresher legs and who settles down in the game the quickest.
Well, Brisbane will actually enjoy it if it's 26, 27 degrees compared with Collingwood.
Yeah, well,
they're used to that. They're used to that.
Very, very true. Just, gentlemen, there's one thing that I would like to bring forward, and I know, Joe, you're pressed for time, so I won't take too much time, but just quickly, one of the things that's been annoying me of recent times is this name Baggers. I don't know where the bloody hell it started.
It is a thing. It's got something to do with going to butcher shops. I'll research it and I'll get it up for the viewers next week.
Yeah.
Well, because I was the same. I'm like, why blue bag? Weren't they brown? So.
Well, my point very quickly is very simply this: everyone else has got an identity in the competition. You've got kangaroos, you've got your bulldogs, you've got your lions, you've got tigers, all of that sort of thing. And we come up with the Baggers. I mean, come on, guys, we can do better than this. And our club deserves better than be called a blue bagger, for Christ's sake. If you're going to call them anything, call them the Blues or something like that, but not the
Blue Boys.
Right.
The Blue Boys. So can I just mention, Joe, before you wrap it up, you know how we gave our 3-2-1 votes? What we should tell everyone is that next week, because I think you haven't had time to compile the table. So next week, we will share with everyone who ended up being our player of the year, who ended up getting the most votes. We'll give you the top 10 vote getters. And, I think that's how we'll do it. Something to tune in for next Sunday night.
And next week, we'll talk about what we think we need to get in the trade and the draft. We lack. So,
Sounds
Peter, once again, we'd love to thank you for joining us. Your knowledge is impeccable, and we'll see you next week.
We'll also review the grand final with Brownie, of course, next Sunday night. It'll be our last show of the year, won't it, Joey?
Probably.
Yeah.
We'll see. Anyway. All right. See you, Pete.
All right.
Good on you, Brownie. Thanks for joining us, mate.
See you later.
Okay. So, Vince, I'm sorry I'm pushing for time, but I really do got to get going.
Yep.
It's now time for... I'm led to believe that your bet last week lost. I didn't see it, right?
Yes, it lost.
We had $100 left in the kitty.
Well, I can tell you this much, Joe. We're down $100. So what I've decided to do this week is not even bet on a horse for a change. This week we're going to bet on the grand final. I'm suggesting $100 straight out on Brisbane to win. Now the current odds are $2.10. So if that comes in, we'll actually end up being a little bit in front. But we're going to try and get our money back on that. So that's my omen bet of the week. I can't stand the thought of Collingwood winning and matching us and Essendon on 16 premierships each. Can you imagine how we'll have to deal with that if they win? Anyway, go Brisbane. I think they deserve their chance. They were too good for us yesterday. So let's all get behind them because I can't stand the thought of Collingwood winning.
Okay. So we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. But before we go, let's go through this week on the Jumper Punch and Blue Sunday. So on Tuesday night, you have the Jumper Punch on the Blue Abroad channel at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
So that's something to look forward to. Wednesday, we have the
Forever Rivals at 7
Forever
o'clock.
Rivals.
Forever Rivals. Yep.
Yeah. And it's followed by Legends of the Jumper Punch.
Yes, very special
and
one
may
this
I
week.
say, I'm pleased to announce this week's legend is...
G'day everyone, Brett Ratton here from the Carlton Footy Club. Make sure you watch the Jumper Punch every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Jumper Punch.
Spot on. Well
So, Vince, you were at the interview. I'm sure you had a few nice words to say about the Blues with the way he got sacked and at the Saints. So, I was a big
to be honest with you, Joe, it was a fairly lengthy interview, and I think you'll find it'll go over 2 weeks. So, part one will be this Wednesday night, and part two will be the following Wednesday night after the grand final's been played. But Brett was terrific. We really only talked about the Carlton playing days and his coaching days at Carlton. We didn't go into Hawthorn and North Melbourne and St Kilda and all that. So, but it was very enlightening, and I'm delighted to have been able to arrange that interview for our last one for the year.
Vince, someone's asking opinion on Brownlow.
Oh yes, well we didn't get Brownie's Brownlow tip, did we? Look, one of the tips I've got for the Brownlow is that Charlie Curnow will get at least 20 votes. There you go.
No, I want to know who's going to win. That wasn't my question.
Who's going to win? My winner will be Christian Petrarca from Melbourne.
Jeez, I'm going to go for Marcus Bontempelli only because I hate Collingwood and I don't want Dacos to win.
Notice how we both chose Italians.
Yeah.
Nick Dacos? Yeah, he's Greek.
Bloody Macedonia.
Well, Masso, is he? Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And then don't forget on Sunday night, you've got the one and only Mr. Vince Lochisano and myself doing Blue Sunday. So, guys, once again, like and subscribe and share. We've got just over 1,000 members. So it'd be great if you got all your friends to like, subscribe and share. Facebook at Blue Sunday and the Jumper Punch on YouTube. So on that note, Vince, it's time for us to say goodbye. So 1, 2, 3.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.
Next year.
All right. And I'm sorry I've had to cut it short, but I'm rather busy today. So we will see you all next week. Goodbye.
1, 2,